Good evening, everybody. Call the Finance Committee of the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency to meeting to order. Do the roll call. Mike Baden, Chair, present. James Gordon, absent. Chris Hurlbert, sorry,
I'm here.
Mark Ryder,
Here.
Kim DeGraff, here, and Nancy
On her way.
Okay. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
To approve agenda?
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion to approve the minutes, and just as a side to it, neither you or I were on the committee or on the board at that time. However, as long as you've read the minutes and understand them, we can vote. So I ask you for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Mark, are there any communications or announcements?
No, this is, I mean, a lot of times this is where like we talked about when the next finance committee meeting would be, but because this meeting, kind of this committee meets generally annually or a little bit more, other things pop up, not regular, so we don't have anything. I don't have anything.
Any unfinished business? I didn't see anything in the minutes. Okay, new business, the annual review of the UCRRA investment policy. I guess, turn it over to you.
All right, so I don't know where you guys are of the reasoning for this, but real quick, our auditors every year are actually required to audit our investments. Part of that is our investment policy specifically. We actually do an annual investment before I put together an annual investment report, which details our investments. That they're both posted to our website. They're included in your board packet, just so you guys can see what it looks like, what we're talking about. And this is an authorities budget process requirement. We've also included, policy guidance with regard to this, because if you just take the investment policy itself, you're going to bore yourselves to death. You need jargon and all that. When I first spoke to Mark about it, I first spoke to Nancy about it. One of the things I originally wanted to do is I wanted to put together more of like a layman's terms right up for you guys. And as I started to get into it, it was just going to be too time consuming. So what I did is I actually took the policy guidance and I tried to notate on it, because what we want from this really is compliance. That's the most important thing. We can't get too crazy with our investments here. It's not our money. As Mike are probably familiar with the towns, you guys can't go and buy all kinds of crazy stuff. But compliance is the most important. So I wanted to lay out for you as best as I could items in the policy guidance which relates to section 2925 of Public Authorities Law and where we cover it in our investment policy. Now, our investment policy dates back to the Steve Lee days. He's the original attorney of the agency. And he was the one who put this together. I'm not sure if it ended up getting amended or updated later on, because in 2006 is when the Public Authorities Act actually came out, at which point, because I didn't start here in 2007, but he had put all this together and then, checked to make sure everything was in compliance at the same time and made any changes to any of our bylaws, any of our other policies, which also then got posted to our website. So that's all a part of this. And I just want to let you know that our attorney did handle that way back then. Since then, there was another amendment to the act several years later. We've had internal audits on our compliance in regards to the ADO. So we've, and everything's posted to our website. You'll see that there's actually a tab on there about us that says ADO financial reports. They do make changes on occasion. If any, you got to keep your eyes out for that stuff, catch something. If you notice something, always let us know. It's always more human to this stuff. But so that's from a broad standpoint. But specifically, this investment policy is a part of that whole Public Authorities Act. Recently, though, they've made a requirement that we need to meet annually, review the investment policy and approve it on an annual basis. So the meeting here really is to provide, I mean, obviously we want to review it and make changes as needed or whatever, but more importantly, this documentation that we did what we said we're going to do and that we're in compliance. I don't know how in detail you guys want me to go into this. I'm not sure how much you got to look at it. But that's, like I said, that's the second page of the policy guidance for the bullets. You know, I did numbers with circles. They indicated on the policy where we cover that. And then also the final section of the policy guidance, because in between that, there's a little section that doesn't pertain to us because of IAs. But then there's a section that relates to the annual investment report I do, the audit that we do. You have copies of that that show that we're currently compliant with all that, and it is also posted to our website. My recommendation for now would be to leave this as is. And we are going to plan on keeping this a normal function year to year of our reorganizational meeting. So that way we have, rather than send you something a week in advance, hey, look at this and figure it out and make changes to it if necessary. By the way, it has to be compliant with law. And we're not all attorneys. This gives you guys, you know, a good 6 months to look at it, take it into account. And if you want to get more specific on something, it'll give you certainly Nancy time as well. So my recommendation would be to leave as is now, since we are compliant. I think it's probably more important to make sure we're following the policy as opposed to making changes to it. That's important. And something we might want to consider, maybe we end up having a meeting before year end. We've never really had funds to invest. Our prior investments that you see actually on the investment report related to our long-term debt, our debt service reserves we required to have. We had long-term, what's called fixed guaranteed investment contract. It was 1993 debt. So those ended up being like 30-year investments. We were drawing 4.5% on. We ended up making enough money in that to help with our final balloon payment. So we didn't have to budget anything in 2025 and pay for it because of that service groups, the long-term investments would cover that final payment. So when I go to do the report this year, technically we do not have any investments. I have to check with our auditor. That's how I actually have to handle that. Our current, you know, our bank accounts and the funds that we have, it's just liquid cash, cash. So I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to handle that this year, but I will find out. But that being said, when I started here, our operating reserve, which is essentially our savings account, we only had $250,000. We never worked through that. Nothing was getting invested. At no point in time did I ever feel or recommend to the board that, well, let's get risky and start investing something or whatever, even if that's CDs. So CD rates fluctuate here and there. But we're getting to the point now to where we have almost 3.4 million and we're expecting some large grant. We just found out in the last few days, actually, a huge grant that we had put in for our compost expansion from back in like 2020. It's about to go into contract. That'll be about $633,000 we'll receive for that expansion. So that'll bump us up to 4 million. I tend to be a little more conservative probably than others, but that's why we're all a part of this. I would probably leave a good chunk of that still where it is. We might be able, we should consider $500,000, $1 million, maybe putting in a CD, maybe putting in US Treasury notes. I've already been in contact with our bank just to give them the heads up. You know, I'm able to set up a meeting to figure out what we might want to do. The Treasury notes, I think 2 and 5 year aren't too bad right now, 4% or more. Last time I checked. So I think we should two-set mutually exclusive discussion here. We've got the investment policy. I think that's good. But I just want to, you know, include as part of this. I want to start having, you know, discussions about how to invest some money.
Would we ever, excuse me, consider looking outside of our bank? And I don't know which bank we use. So I know when I was supervisor, Bank of Greene County had some municipal accounts that with a minimum deposit were they were still liquid. They were still cash accounts, but they were they were able to offer a much higher rate of interest.
That's who we have right now. So
okay.
Yep.
So something we, you know, and I made sure that, you know, emergency came up because that was our, essentially was our reserve fund, but it was unallocated. And where we were with our bank that we were writing day-to-day checks from Ellenville, we were making minuscule interest. So I opened up an account with Bank in Greene County, all municipal account, all fluid, but the interest rate was considerably more. And, you know, we probably turned $100,000 interest in a year compared to
We went through the same exact,
5,000.
literally the same exact thing, because
Yeah.
most of the time I was here, our bank accounts didn't have anything. We went out to RFP for banking soon. Were you here for, oh, you weren't here, so it was having 2023 maybe? And the same thing, we started getting 4% instead of being 0.02% or something, so yeah, it turned into like an extra
Yeah.
$1,000 or more. All
Yeah.
of a sudden, just in our regular bank accounts.
And it was a specialized municipal account. So it was things that we didn't, and hopefully we would need it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But I could draw out of it if I needed to, with
Yeah.
no penalty.
Yeah, I don't know if we would be something like that, how specific
Yeah, I don't
that
know
is, what the rules are
exactly.
for a public authority, but I mean, there are options, even to like think about a sweep account. To where like our regular deposit account at the end of the night sweeps over into the operating reserve, which is earning a higher interest rate. You know what I mean? I think right now we're getting 2.3% in the operating reserve.
Even the,
8.6% in the regular deposits, maybe we squeeze that money. And we're not talking about a lot, but you know, $4,000 extra. at the end.
even the CDs are intriguing on a short-term basis.
Sure, yeah.
We done anything like that in the past, or do we have?
We haven't had that ability.
Not-
You know, it's funny, how things have changed over the last 20 years. It's just, getting that debt paid off, it's getting long.
We're still, even when we hit 4, we're still failing around that 3 months of expense.
Sure, and
I mean,
that's why I say
we're not
500,000, maybe $1 million, but that's the discussion that we
Right.
need to have.
And that's where, you know, the question is maybe as part of our policy, we want to have a line in there to amend it about how much we should always have
Yeah.
in a reserve fund, either in percentage of budget or,
Yeah,
you know,
so we have, it's
3 months is kind of the standard.
way back, so way back when the discussions were agreeing with the county, and they were supposed to fund the operating reserve, and it was 3 months, it was 25% of it. That's what we used. I remember when we had the comptroller's office in here, and Tim Rose had asked them for a recommendation, like they wouldn't give one. And I hear that, and I hear the same thing, GFOA, it's like a running joke at the GFOA conference, that exact thing, and everyone should go move on. But we've always said the same, like, we're not in the business here, so yeah, 3 months is probably pretty good. But you have, right? I always said it was up to the different boards, it's a change, man, a board who feels more comfortable with having 6 months, you know, so I think that's part of the reason why you should look at this stuff in.
Yeah. So I think that's something we should probably include in our investment policy as a statement of, you know, a benchmark of a minimum of either percentage of annual budget or however you choose to do it. But, and then, you know, my feeling is as long as it's invested in something that is a cash account that can be fluid without significant penalties, if you have to withdraw early,
Sure.
Yeah, I agree with you.
we might as well use that money rather than just sitting in a bank account drawing 1% or less, you know, so.
Yep.
When would so we would make these decisions in the organizational?
Yeah, that would be part of our organization next year.
But I think it keeps you guys, you know, 6 months, stuff like that. We can't get too crazy with it, but you know, we can certainly make tweaks or.
But even the 2.5, the bulk of our money sits in is much better than.
Question for you, since this is an officially constituted committee with only 3 members, Chris and I couldn't talk online, because I have a lot of experience with this from being the town supervisor, but
Quorum, that's.
that would we'd be in a quorum if you did that, right? I think. With only 3 members, if 2 of us are talking online about,
Directly discussing finance.
Yeah.
Committee business.
Then it would be like,
okay. Well, maybe I can send you some information that I probably have in my folder somewhere. To dig them up. I did a lot of research on this about how to try to use it. Yeah, so. where those files are now, it's hard to say, but they're somewhere in my office at home.
And we did have Nancy do a cross check with the ABO guidance and the law and just make sure that everything looked up. You know, not from the finance perspective, but weigh in on what you.
Yeah, I mean, in comparing LEBO guidelines, and then reviewing, investment policy purely from just like the text. It appears we're in compliance. I don't have a finance background, but it checks out.
Are we required to re-adopt that annually? I know some policies are required to re-adopt annually and other policies you only, if you make changes, otherwise they just continue.
We're required to review.
With you. In my opinion, it doesn't, unless there's the law says you can't.
No, I mean,
Re-adopting policies at our organizational meetings might be a good
would be
idea.
the right way. Review and then, adopt.
Even if it's re-adopted with no changes, then it's just,
And that's where we're.
and because we've got turnover board members too, with a 3-year term. So.
And that's where we're designating the custodial bank.
That's a separate resolution, right?
Yeah.
We designate our bank.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We will start again at 6 p.m.
We have sandwiches.